I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. Yeah, I'm funny, but like not in a funny way.
What's up, everybody? My name is Jesse, and welcome to the Jess Takes a Village podcast, where we focus on regular people who have used their education, whether it be formal, vocational, or even life experiences, to propel their lives in a positive direction. Ladies and gentlemen, after 9 months of waiting,
Don't even say that.
after 9 months and a 5-hour drive, all the way from West Buffalo all the way to Brooklyn, New York, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Kassandra to the podcast. Now, for those of you who don't know, Kassandra becomes one of our most special featured guests. Maybe if not at the top, no disrespect to my mom and my other boys. But Kassandra is what you call the greatest essential worker of all time. I worked on that intro. Without Kassandra, the world doesn't really spin the exact same way. Now, some of you may be wondering, what does Kassandra do for a living that's getting this unbelievably amount of clout? Right? Unbelievable, sorry. By profession, Kassandra is a mental health therapist. And she usually has like this saying that she does. So without further ado,
Say the saying?
say the saying.
Oh my God, what's my saying?
You
I
know
totally
the saying.
forgot. I
Hold
know
the
I
mic.
do know
Alright.
it. So,
God.
licensed mental health counselor here or whatever. And I'm gonna let you in on what I gained for my sessions with my clients for the day.
Absolutely. Now, before we jump into the whole therapy aspect of your life and the self-healing journey that it like exudes, what got you to that path? Why therapy? Because for some of us kids who live in urban communities, our therapy consists of meeting up on a Friday, sitting in front of one of the homies' houses, and we drink and we talk shit and we just let it out.
Yeah.
But for you, how'd you get on that path?
So it wasn't like one of those, I knew I wanted to do this forever.
Right.
When I was in ninth grade, well, 8th grade, I took a psychology course, super general, like whatever. I'm like, oh, this is pretty interesting, like how the brain works and all of that. But then when I got to high school, that's what it was. I took a forensic psychology course, and I was like, oh my God.
Every woman is a detective.
Yo, that's facts, actually. Now that makes sense. But the professor I had, she was great. And I think the way that she taught it, I'm like, wow, I want to do this. And low key, now that I'm looking back, I'm like, did I want to be a teacher or did I want to? Just saying.
All roads lead back to it.
Just saying. But yeah, I was like so fascinated with how they used psychology to catch criminals, essentially. And so, on top of that, I was also really fascinated. This is gonna sound so crazy, but I was like fascinated with serial killers.
Everybody is. I mean, they had like the study on Instagram. Instagram is not a reliable source, but they had this study on Instagram, and it was basically, this was linked to like a study in like Europe, that if you came home after a long day and you unwinded and you watch First 48 or any other like serial killing things, like they were diagnosing people with something.
Oh
basically,
my God.
like it's bad to unwind to that kind of content, you know? And I say to myself, outside of, the axe chopping and, the way people think is extremely interesting. It intrigues me. Like, what led you to do that? Like, what switch in your brain just turned off or turned on?
Yeah.
Like, what part of what cortex, whether it be your frontal, your occipital, whatever, but what got you to that point? So that's personally something that I've always looked forward to with it. So you're introduced to this concept of psychology, right? But you kind of hone in on forensic, right? Which gives you like, I guess, now I'm not going to say you appreciate serial killers, but it's like, okay, like this is interesting. So at 14, like for me and a lot of my other peers, when we're introduced to something at an early age, it kind of like means the world to us, right? And we kind of carry it. Was that the case for you? Did you carry that first meeting of psychology?
I
So
did.
10th, 11th, 12th grade, or
Yeah, I did because honestly, I can't even recall if 10th through 12th or whatever, I had more psych courses. I think that was literally the only one, and then everything else was like something different. And yeah, I think it was exactly what you said, where I was just like, oh my God, there's something that's like driving these people, or there's something lacking, right? That's driving people to commit these like super crazy things, right?
yeah.
And so, but yeah, to answer your question, it like took me all the way to like senior. I just already knew that. That's what I wanted to do.
Oh,
Like
okay.
I already knew that.
So you're in 12th grade,
Yes.
11th, 12th. We start the applications to go to college, right?
Yes.
We're the same age, so we start the applications to go to college. What schools are you looking at? Are you just trying to like? Because I had a guest, the last guest, she was just trying to get away, right? She was
Ah.
just trying to get away, start fresh, right? But along her path of starting fresh, she didn't do too good at this school, didn't do too good. It took her a couple schools, right? And you know, whenever you don't have, I don't have parents who went to college, right? I don't know if it's the same thing for you, but whenever you're the first in that experience or in that field, we're kind of prone to make like a lot of mistakes starting.
Yeah.
So were you helped with like your college applications?
Thank God that I was. So my mom, I think, completed her associates.
College stuff.
Yep. And then I'm the middle child.
For
So
real? Me too.
yeah, that's so
Yeah.
crazy.
Two brothers,
Two sisters.
two sisters.
That's crazy. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So my older sister had already gone through her process. So at that point, my mom was like, "This is what you need to do. This is but like when you need to fill it out, all that stuff." I think I remember meeting with my guidance counselor, like I could count it on one hand. But my mom was really the one that was like,
Mom
"This
was
is what we're
adamant on it.
doing."
Yep.
Yeah, super. And then as far as schools, I think I just did like so. Yes, I was one of those people that was like, I can't wait to get away, but my parents didn't allow that.
Yep.
Very
Stop
strict
that shit right there.
upbringing. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were so strict. Yeah, and
You were you
so
having flashbacks.
I
As
am
of
having
yeah.
flashbacks.
Where you going?
Like
Yeah.
yo, for real. So they didn't let that happen. So I was like, all right, so like what schools am I gonna go to? Obviously, financially, we grew up middle class. So I'm also I also now that I realize like I didn't aim super high. I was a good student. I would say I was like top average, but not like academically. I didn't go like I didn't have honors classes or anything. I just,
That's another honest thing I've been appreciating about people, not to cut you throughout the whole
yeah.
podcast journey. Like people will literally like sit in the chair and be like, I didn't get the best grades.
Yeah.
No, you have so many people who when they start, they believe academia starts for them in college, right? Even though it truly starts when you first enter school, right? Even from infancy, toddlership, if that's the word.
Exactly.
But for you to say like, yo, like I didn't aim the highest, knowing you could have, that shows like the transparency. Because I always tell all the guests, the kids in my class, I don't know how they do it, but they watch this, right? And it's always good to have adults who are transparent. So, you know, some adults in kids' eyes, they look like superhumans, godlike. We don't do any wrong. You know, we've always known what we've been going to do. We've had the whole thing mapped out. We never struggled.
Yep.
But our versions of adults, we're here to say, listen, like, aim higher, but we're only asking you to aim higher because we could have. Yeah. If we had all the resources to do so, he's having too much fun.
Yeah. Or even just like not knowing what we know now, too,
exactly.
you know?
So the lack of knowledge made us somewhat ignorant.
Yeah.
At that point, right?
Yeah, for
so
sure.
You telling yourself you could have aimed higher, right? So mom was big help. Yes. In the college process. Yeah. So with that being said, the kind of transition from high school to college, was it like a little bit easier for you?
Yeah. If I had to think back at it, it would definitely was. I don't remember ever being like stressed about like, oh my gosh, am I gonna miss a deadline? It was I graduated, had my summer, and I was ready to start you know, when the
Right.
semester like began or whatever. And I think we had to like apply
Yeah.
in December, right? Or something like that. I don't
One of
even know. I
those,
don't know what the
yeah.
process was. It was so long. That's crazy. But
How long ago was
yeah.
it?
But yeah, she was a really big help. And I think I maybe applied to a handful of schools too, because you had to pay per application and all of that. So I was like, all right, you know what? I need to apply to schools that are close to home, but not like too close, but also not too far. That was like my, this is where I'm going to meet myself in the middle.
This is as you're in the Long Island area.
As I'm in the Long Island area, yeah. And so SUNY Westbury was one of the schools that I applied to, and I got in, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go there. I also played soccer, so it was a D3 school. So I'm like, all right, like.
But you still play college sports. You
I
played
played
sports in college?
I played soccer in college.
So you're an athlete, student athlete.
Yes, I was a student athlete.
You was nice though? Like
I was okay, honestly. So God, this gives me like not anxiety to talk about, but this is one of the moments that like perfectly ties into me being a mental health counselor, where I'm like, wow, there are so many moments in your life that shape the way you are. And the moments that you think are not significant are probably like some of the most significant. It's just that we go through life on autopilot and we don't process like what's happening. But I say all that to say that I played for school in high school. I also was on a club travel team. I played for East Islip. I don't know if you're like familiar. Yeah. So not to toot my own horn.
Okay, shit, girl.
But I was really good. I was really fast. I scored a lot of goals. I played center mid, so it's like a lot of running. I was so good. But I feel like school soccer for high school, and well, high school, that coach was, that's also another thing. The people in like leadership positions, like, man, you have to have a special gift to guide, I guess, like young minds, because you don't know, like, I don't know if this is the right word, but you don't know how fragile like some minds are and stuff.
So saying something could offset somebody for years.
1000%. And so how I was in my travel like soccer was completely different how I was in high school. And then I applied for SUNY Westbury. So the coach had to come and watch us play and stuff. So he came to one of my travel teams and he was like, wow, like you're gonna replace our like top scorer.
Oh.
And
Russia.
Seriously, I haven't talked about this actually. This is like the first time I'm talking about this.
Do it.
So I was like, oh my God, this is like amazing. And I was like so excited. Now, in like college soccer is completely different than high school. Like we were doing 2-a-days, like it's just completely different. And I ended up pulling my hip flexor.
Oof.
And that is like, you can't really heal unless you're like not doing anything. And you could do like bike work and stuff like that, but any little, like if you take off to sprint, that's it again, and you could like tear it again. So I was like, okay, so what are they called, the sports physicians in the
sports science, sports medicine,
those people, right? So they would like wrap my hip, and it would go down to like my thigh, but I had like little to no mobility. Like I couldn't just explode sprinting. I couldn't do certain moves, and it was just like a crutch, and that just took my confidence down, because then obviously I was hurt for maybe like the first couple of weeks, so I couldn't play, so I didn't start, so other people got to showcase their thing. And then that's it, like that's it, my confidence just like went down. So college soccer for me it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun for 4 years after the injury. Because even, and this is how crazy, this is why I'm like so fascinated with the mind too. Whatever you believe, that's what plays out. And so after that first year, it was just like negative thought after negative thought. And I was like, I'm not good. I'm not good. I'm not better than so and so. Like and that's it. My college soccer experience was like, it was done after the first semester. But obviously my teammates were like great. That whole experience was
Yeah.
like cool too.
The community behind it.
Community, yeah. And I don't know how we got here, but yes, I played.
No, well, yeah, but the thing about it is, you were more so in a point of, as you made that transition, you also played sports, right? So
Yes.
sports was a segue for you to just get into college. You met people, and this is like before the injury, you're doing your thing.
Yeah.
They're noticing you, and I really like the point you said about leadership. I feel like that's gonna get clipped up too. So the real is coming, but when people are in positions, you really have to know how to read a room. How you handle little Timmy is very different from you handle little Billy, right?
1000%.
And somebody's gonna come and judge me and say, "Why am I using those names?" Right? So how you handle Chris is different from how you handle Carlos. You understand what I'm saying? If Carlos needs this extra push, you could be a little. But with Chris, you have to be like, "Yo, what's going on?" You all right? Stuff like that, and how that plays a part in your growth and development, it really can either push you or it can stifle you, right? So as a student athlete, which a lot of, and listen, I'm not saying that what you were doing wasn't special. I'm only saying that there are so many stories like your own, even in a professional setting. You've been doing this your whole life. Your pops or your mom probably gave you a soccer ball for Christmas from the time you could walk,
Yeah.
And then there's like this shift, like, oh man, I can't do this anymore. Then it's like, what's gonna happen next? But we don't judge people off what they were comfy with. We judge them off what they adapted to.
Yeah.
So the soccer thing doesn't really pan out. So now you got no choice but to go full academic, right? So what's the major now? So were you already declared as a psychology major?
Yep.
Okay,
At that point, I was already.
So now you got to put your foot down. What are some of the classes you're taking?
At that
and what's
point,
intriguing? What do you like? What do you dislike?
Yeah, it kind of stayed along the same path. So we had to take like research. I forgot what it's called. I guess just research psychology. It was like research psych 1, 2, or 3.
Research. Statistics.
Yes. Yeah.
Behavioral neuroscience.
Oh wow.
Mind, brain, and my undergrad is in psychology. Yeah,
What?
mind, brain, and behavior. We also took. I'm gonna remember it, but it was
abnormal psych.
Abnormal psych. That's where we spoke about, and correct me if I'm wrong. That's where we spoke about animals, and there's a term that I'll never forget. It's called anthropomorphizing. That's when you attach human feelings to an animal.
Oh my god.
So some psychologists say animals can't feel sad, they can't feel happy. That's just what us humans relate to it as. And I'm like, my man, I got a bunch of dogs in my backyard. I know who's happy versus who's not.
Exactly.
I know the temperament. But like I always tell people in psychology, what makes it beautiful, for every theory that says yes, there's another theory that says no. So it happens. So you're taking all of these classes, and now graduation comes up, right? And I always like to get to graduation because that's like one of the first big accomplishments for us college going people. So once you graduate, what are you doing for a living? Are you working?
Yeah. So during my college days, my first job was actually at ShopRite. I love saying this story. My family's like tired of hearing me talk about this. It was at ShopRite, and I actually got fired from that
supermarket,
job.
for those who
don't
know.
Yes, supermarket. I was a cashier. I got fired. It wasn't my fault, but it was.
They always say it's not their fault. What did you do?
I had so they had the 3-strike rule or whatever, and I think the first strike I was like short on money or something, or over. It doesn't matter if you're short or over. Like,
how you get in trouble for having over?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Exactly. So then, I mean, maybe I was short, whatever. And then I forgot what the second one was, but my last strike was that it was a like busy day. It must have been a weekend. And I missed the case of water under the shopping cart. I didn't scan it, and somebody walked out with like free case of water. And then the security stopped them at the door. I had no idea, mind you. I'm just like they waited till I finished my shift. And then they were like, by the way, we caught you on the camera, and this is your third strike. And
what did they catch you?
That I didn't scan the case of water. So essentially, a customer walked out with a free case of water.
Well, I'm not understanding because listen, I'm not teasing at you, but
Yeah.
you're like maybe 3 foot 2 inches.
I know.
So I don't know if you're even able to have the mobility to see. Oh, now I'm playing with you.
I get it.
But
This is what they taught us. Like there was like a little balcony on like below the register, and you had to stand up and physically like lean over, and it was just so awful because it's like, ugh.
I mean, you cost the company $7.
Yeah. The audacity, right?
And I know your face. You're like, what? You're like, what?
I was sobbing. I was crying because it was my first job. And I think I just like, I was like, oh my God, like what are my parents going to say? Like I got fired. I just, always
how am I going to pay the rent that they charge me? Because certain parents from a certain demographic, once you start working, you got to pay bills.
Luckily, my parents, they were very supportive in that aspect.
Shout out to your parents.
Yeah, I'm really grateful.
Let me know if they're adopting. Okay.
But now they're like, they don't know how to be parents to adult children, and that's like another phenomenon, I guess, that like I'm seeing. But anyway, so yeah, I got fired from that job, but then I started working with my mom's old boss. My mom's an accountant.
Okay.
And one of her bosses I don't know, I guess he just made his own like franchise. And so he needed workers, like secretary type of thing, receptionist type of thing. So my mom is like, oh my God, like my daughter's looking for a job. She's still in college, whatever. So I started doing admin work at an accounting office, literally basically half or most of my undergrad years, and even into, luckily the hours were flexible.
Yeah. And there's no water cases.
Exactly.
You like traumatized.
And yeah, even during my master's, I was still working like part-time there. So that's what I did.
So now I'm thinking about, the ShopRite story is crazy. But your mom plugged you in, you have this job.
Yep.
But your academic career is kind of like coming to an end, right? Because you're getting ready to graduate, and you're officially going to be one of those people who have to go out there into the job force and find a job, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you get your degree, you get your grad degree in
mental health counseling.
And now you have to fulfill a requirement, right? So before you get your license, and how many hours did you have to do?
I want to say, damn, don't quote me on this, but I think it was like, does 3,000 sound like a lot?
It does, but I'm pretty sure.
I can't remember.
It's not in the hundreds.
It's not in the hundreds. That's for like practicum, because we had to do two things. It was like practicum, and then the second year was like the actual internship.
So how do you go about getting these hours though?
So Queens College had a program specialist or something, and so they had already a list of, I guess, organizations, private practices, whatever, that offered internships. Like that's just like what they did. So you basically go to the specialist and she gives you the list. Everybody's looking at the same list, and basically first come, first serve. You got to email whoever, like whatever name intrigues you.
Yeah.
And then you just showcase yourself, like I'm an intern, like looking for whatever. And then you just do your hours.
So you're actually talking to people, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, obviously, everything is bounded by confidentiality.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. But what I would love to know is, after hearing some of the things that people go through, how do you separate that from who you are as a person? And the only reason why I ask that question is, it would be like the equivalent of me calling you like, yo, doctor, because I'm pretty sure they call you doctor or Kassandra or whatever, but like, yo, doctor, like I'm fucked up right now. Like my wife left, something happened to my kid, this thing happened, and you're hearing all of this with the intent on providing them with tools and resources, but then it's like when you close that computer, you get off the phone or they leave your office, how do you just go woof? Yeah. Like that must be really hard to like internalize, So like, what's that like for you?
So when I first started off, it wasn't something that I was able to do because when you're like a new therapist, you're just like, I have to save these people. Like you just have that like complex of like,
Absolutely.
if I can't help them, then it's on me. If something happens, it's on me. And so that part was like really hard. I will say that it comes with experience. Um, I also will say that eventually a lot of self-talk, a lot of self-talk. But that also comes with just maturing maybe in your craft, but also
Yeah,
like,
I was just gonna say that's a different level of maturity, though.
yeah, it's like, because I feel like there's like multiple parts to it. When you're a therapist, a lot of what, and this is actually with anything, you get almost this like imposter syndrome maybe, or also just like lack of confidence. Just a whole bunch of like things start coming up for you. And my set of, I don't want to call them demons, my set of, I don't know, just difficulties, internal difficulties that I have to deal with might look different from yours. And so for
Absolutely.
me, it was a lot of like, I'm not confident in myself and I don't know if I can help these people, etc. So it was a lot of doing my own work and working through that. I had my own therapist. I
The
feel like a
therapist
lot,
had a therapist.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that is very important. Side note. But so I have that, and then my secret is gratitude. When I hang up the laptop, or when I close the laptop,
Shit, hang up the laptop.
um, if what I just finished hearing are my clients being in a difficult space,
Mm-hmm.
I immediately kind of just, I always take a deep breath. I end every call with like taking a deep breath, and I just say something along the lines of like, I'm really thankful that I'm in this position to help. That I'm not like
Yes.
there with them because it allows me to be able to help.
Right.
But also, there are times where I talk to my clients and um, I don't know. I wouldn't, yeah, I will say a lot of the things that they say, they're relatable. So when I'm in session, how do I deal with it? If something comes up that I feel like, ooh, they just said something that's hitting a little too close to home, it's just immediately something that I know that I need to work on in myself or in my life.
Mm. It's like shared reflection,
Literally.
conversation. You know, it's like the things that they tell you. You are internalizing everything, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I could never tell you not to, but I think that's one of the best parts about being human. I always tell people is compassion,
yeah,
right? You sit there, you're like, damn, you know,
yeah.
you're like, damn, and then you're able to say, okay. Now, one thing I do want to pick at what you said because I'm a wordy guy. You said the gratitude comes from me being in a position to help them. You know, sometimes when you look at social media, you look at read articles, you know, every therapist always has like an answer for something, you
Mm-hmm.
know? An answer in terms of, well, they brought the problem to me, here's the solution.
Mm,
But you said something so profound. You said, I'm just thankful that I'm just able to be in a position to help them,
mm.
right? And I feel as if that should hold so much merit. And I feel like those are one of the moments where you should really like pat yourself on the back and clap for yourself. Because for you to actually notice the privilege that you have of just being able to help someone
Mm.
instead of saying, well, this is the solution, this is the answer. Humans don't work like that, you know. And the more people realize that, I feel like there's a slight, like there'll be a slight shift in the world for positivity, because it's like sometimes we don't always have the answers, but you kind of have to put people in position. You can't spoon feed people solutions,
Yeah.
because once you spoon feed once, you have to spoon feed again. Sometimes you have to put people in position, let them work it out, let them come back. Hey, this is what I'm doing. They tried and failed. Okay, let's move on to something else.
Yeah.
Right? Something different. But it's just like, it's refreshing to hear. Then another point that I also wanted to tackle onto was the therapist needing a therapist, which is the equivalent to a barber needing a barber, right? Even though a barber could possibly,
Yes.
or like a teacher needing a mentor or professor, we all need people to help us, especially the ones in our same field or position, right? Because there's some things that, we'll miss. And it goes back to your point of lack of experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the point when you get 10, 15, 20 years in, you're able to do the same thing for a young therapist on the rise,
Yeah, absolutely.
So my next question for you is, these things that you learn from these sessions, what makes them such powerful lessons for you to like incorporate in your day-to-day life? What makes the things that they tell you, or even the solutions that you give, why does it mean so much to you?
That is a good question. I feel like there's different maybe factors. A lot of the clients that I see are essentially around my age. And so I think that the things that they go through, I feel like anyone can relate to, obviously.
Right.
But I think for me, I don't know if I like reflected ever on that question so much, but I think it's just because now that I'm like thinking about it, I summarize basically what the session like was about. And I feel like based off that summarization, it's just nice to almost like compartmentalize like how so much could have happened in the week. And that's just like a fraction, right? I summarize because there's like so many factors that you could hit up in the session. But I think it's just the summarization and the compartmentalization. Everything is like almost organized. Right. And I think maybe for me, it just helps me maybe it is a reminder that like, oh, this is maybe the way that I helped in that session. But obviously like these are also things that I can apply in my like
day-to-day life. I look at it. So I usually was teaching 5th grade prior to this year, and they put me in 4th grade. So I'm not like a traditional teacher. I don't like stay by the desk. I got like a little rolling chair. Or sometimes I'll sit on the floor in between lessons or whatever. And I'm sitting next to a little girl in my class, and she's become like my right hand man. Like sometimes like I'll be on the desk and she'll be like, "Mr. Jess, you're in my space. I need you to move over." I'm like, "I'm sorry that I can't put my elbow on my own table in my own classroom," or whatever. And that's like the bond we have. But the last couple of days, because school started last Thursday, the last couple, no, yes, it did start last Thursday. So it hasn't even been a full week yet.
Wow, that's crazy.
And we've been talking every day, me and this girl. And I told her, I said, so like, you ready for 4th grade? She's like, yeah. I'm like, why? And why does it mean like so much to you? She looks at me, she goes, because I know you were gonna be my teacher.
Oh,
I'm like, what?
my God.
She goes, yeah, I knew you were gonna be my teacher.
What?
I knew it. She goes, I knew it already. I said, how'd you know? My mom found out. And I was so happy because it was you. I'm like, yeah, but you don't even know me. I said, how can you be so happy? She goes, but I remember you used to come and visit my class every day. You used to come and visit my class. That's why it was so important to me. And I'm just like, damn. Ergo, you never know the impact. Or the why.
Yeah.
The effect that you're having in someone's lives and the lessons you can learn. I didn't know that me just being a goofball, sticking my head into the room, and she go, "Hi, Mr. Jesse, I'm like, what's up?" And then now in turn, she gets the full circle moment, just like I am, and she's just like more happy than ever. I'm like, well, what would make me do that? Why? And then I reflect back to it. The kind of teacher I always wanted is what I became, right? And I look at it as maybe the kind of therapist you've always wanted is kind of like what you became.
Wow, that is
And
such a
that's
great
like,
point. Yeah.
that's, and that's not, for you to share, because that's things that are, near and dear to your heart, and everybody should have their right to privacy, especially when it comes to their thoughts and their full circle moments. But it's like, that's what I did.
Yeah.
Without even realizing. And you're probably doing this every day without even realizing.
Yeah.
You're probably really sitting there just on a cloud of humility, as I call it, not even realizing like your day-to-day impact, So you're a therapist. How many years have you been practicing now?
So I graduated my master's in 2017, and right after I graduated, I had a job lined up. Thank God. Yeah, thank God. I kind of wore like many hats in the therapy field. I was working at a hospital. I worked with juvenile adolescents. I had to do like in-home therapy and
thank God you didn't use the word
therapy.
delinquent, but yeah.
No, I know, because I thought about it too. And you know what's crazy? Actually, now that you say that, that job was really hard for me because they literally looked at these kids as delinquents.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, if you were to just understand, I had one specifically where the dad was just, he wasn't present. Yeah. He wasn't present. And obviously the kid is going to act up. Yeah. But our job was, it's called multisystemic family therapy. And you have to.
Systemic family therapy.
Yeah. So you look at multiple systems that could be contributing to the delinquency, right? What's going on in school. And it's actually a good model. I think anyone can apply it. Like, all right, if I don't know, I haven't been disciplined in working out, like what's going on in all my systems that's not helping me, whatever. And then you come up with a plan. It's a good model.
Okay. Good format to follow.
Yeah, good format. And so, but yeah, my job was to sit with the parents and come up with a system. And one time in supervision, I'm like, so I was talking to the daughter or the son, whatever. And they were telling me XYZ, and they're like, yeah, but that's not, you don't do that. You gotta like sit with the parent. So essentially it's like the kid's voice does not matter. And that day, that's when I knew, I'm like, this is not for me. What do you mean? Like the whole basis is for us to get into the kids' world, figure out like why they're doing all of this. So I left that job after like 4 months. So I did that. Then I worked at a clinic in Brooklyn. And the clinics, man, I was seeing almost like 80 clients a week. I was burnt out. I was burned
80 a week?
Out. Yeah. Yeah. It was like 30-minute sessions. Sometimes you could go to 45 minutes, but if you went to 45 minutes, your regular 12 to 8:30 would be like you're working after hours essentially. So that job like kind of burned me out, but I was getting closer and closer, I guess, to where like what I wanted to do. And I forgot your original question, but
let's keep going. Like I'm all the way like
so that happens, but then something happens where they didn't like honor a bonus and stuff. And then on top of that, I was like burnt out. I was going through like relationship issues, like everything in my life outside was like crumbling. I like to work a lot with like pillars with my clients. Same thing as systems, I guess, but none of my pillars were like balanced. And on top of that, at work where you spend most of your day, like you're feeling burnt out, not supported, like all these things, I was like, this is not for me. And then I actually took a break from psychology for a second, like therapy. And
due to the
burnout.
Right.
And then I was working back at the accountant office. I was like in and out. It was like a revolving door for me. And thank God like they allowed it, because during tax season, they always need help. So I did that. And then that's when I stumbled upon this private practice that I worked for. I'm not gonna get into the details because that was like the managing aspect of it was like awful.
Goes back to the leadership point you brought up earlier.
Yep, it was awful. But I met a lot of like good therapists.
Amongst the
And
confusion.
exactly. And I realized that private practice, it was a much slower pace, and it was more like, not that the clinic wasn't long-term therapy, because there were some clients that were there for like 10 years, let's just say, and they just had therapist after therapist because it was a revolving door. But there was just no growth. A lot of them would just go there because if they go there, then they get benefits, or there was always something. But private practice was like, I'm genuinely having an issue that I want to resolve, and it's like slower pace, and you build more of a rapport as opposed to like the clinic. Again, it was
30,
like
30, 30, 30, 30,
yep,
30, 30. Like, who are you?
yep, literally.
Imagine
And then
giving advice for Bill and you really talking to Ted. Yeah.
literally.
That's
So,
crazy.
but yeah, and then that's when I realized that, like, oh, okay, I like private practice.
Yeah.
And then that's when I was like studying, because I had to get licensed by the state. So
For
I
your own
had
private practice.
to just get a license.
Okay.
So I was like, it's called a limited permit. So I was
Okay.
practicing under another supervisor.
Yes. Okay. Right.
And then I passed my state exam. I know, that was like, I failed the first time. No, the first 2 times. I think I passed on the 3rd try. And
The first 2 don't count.
I
Once you
know,
pass,
right?
yeah, bye.
And yeah, I was like, I want my own practice, and I worked to get my own practice.
So at this moment, you have your own practice.
I have my own practice.
Oh.
Yeah,
Clap
thank
for
you.
yourself.
Thank
That's
you.
big. What the?
Thanks. Every time I say that, like, I have a hard time sitting with my accomplishments, because I'm always like, well, yeah, that's what I was supposed to do. Like, it's just, that's in the back of my head.
I've been referring to, I had a guest, and we actually shot in that room right there. She was like a teacher. We all grew up together on the block. She's a teacher, mental health therapist, all of that.
Wow.
She's out in Texas right now. You know, she tells me, she goes, you got to learn to appreciate the space you're in.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes, because of our upbringing, we're having parents who are hustlers. Once we get to point A, we just jump to point B, then C, then D, then E, then F.
Yes.
Oh, the transitioning from A to B, we're really supposed to stop in the middle. Let's call it A and a half.
Mm-hmm.
We're really supposed to be like, damn, like I'm really moving on to the next level, And there's something about appreciating the little accomplishments, because if you can't appreciate them when they're small, when they're big, you'll just bypass them. You'll say, "Oh my God, I'm being honored. All right, what's next?"
What's next? Yeah.
But that's when I believe there's nothing wrong with it. But if you do it too much, excessively, you won't ever be satisfied.
Yeah.
And there are benefits to being satisfied. There are benefits to being content. There are benefits to consistency. Looks like this on the chart. I tell people that all the time. Being stagnant after a while also looks like this on the chart, right? It's only really the risk that really show ups and downs. But you do need to take your time. Your life will never just be on the upward or on the downwards. Like, it's literally like, So having your own private practice, I know you have to be like extremely proud of yourself.
Yeah.
You really have to be, because it's like you went from these 30, I don't even like, you went from these 30 minutes, 80 patients, to now like you run the show.
Yeah.
You get to decide who you see and how long. Now, with the private practice, if you could just explain, how do you know what insurance is to take?
So I actually use third parties, because when I first started, I was like, I'm just taking cash only, like out of network. And I low key want to go back to that, but like realistically, I don't know. I don't know. You just reach more people. But so I use a third party because I could not be bothered with signing up to insurance panels and all that. I heard it's like a nightmare, and so I would rather have like someone else take care of that for me. And so that's what I did. And some of the insurance panels, like, they signed me up with like United Healthcare, Cigna,
Emblem,
yeah.
GHI.
No
GHI.
no
PPO. What is it? Is it Emblem PPO? Some shit.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
Blue Cross, which I think
I'm
is
trying
like
to figure out if you
umbrella.
take my insurance.
Nah,
Yeah.
I'm crying.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they take care of that like part for me.
And who finds the clients?
It's a little bit of both. So I was using this third party where the referrals were kind of just coming in, and then it kind of slowed down, and then I just stopped like using them. But a lot of the clients, I'm trying to see like word of mouth. I was like on advertising like websites for
Yeah,
therapists.
absolutely.
So it's mostly that. Sometimes like friend referrals
You
that they
never
like.
really hear like the business aspect of therapy, especially coming from a private person. So this is like audio gold. So just want to be nosy. How did you know to find a third party to help you? Did someone tell you this? Did you have like
Wow,
a
wow.
mentor? Like, how did you know to do that?
I did not have a mentor. I
Okay.
took some of the things from like the old private practice that
Mm-hmm.
I was working at, but they were like just so ironic. They were like a little bit like all over the place, very chaotic. There was no actual like systems in place.
Yeah.
But I knew that they had a Psychology Today account,
Okay.
which is the psychology referral like system. If you go on
Yeah.
psychologytoday.com, you'll see a whole bunch of therapists. So
Yeah.
based off of that, I'm like, this can't be like the only one. And then I just started like researching,
Okay.
and
And is it like obviously because you're running your own business, is having a third party like is it expensive?
some of them are free.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So the one that I stuck with now is free. The other one that I let go, not free. Very hefty
Sheesh.
penny a year. But I would say that I did get a like 90% of my clients from that website. And then yeah, then you have the other ones that are like monthly subscriptions. So
Hmm.
but there are free ones.
Hey, how do you get paid? And I know it's a
Through the
very like
system.
simple. I know it's a very like dumb
No,
question to ask,
no,
but like,
yeah.
how do you like? I only know from one side. You go, your insurance, whatever, and then boom, like that's really the end of it. But like,
Mm-hmm.
how does the therapist get paid now?
So yeah, because the third party takes care of the background, they process the claims and all of that. We have to send it in by a certain date. And then the only thing we just send that, like, yes, we saw the client, this was the time, this is the progress note, whatever. And then they pay us. For example, the one that I have is like the 15th or the end of the month. That we just direct deposit. Now with my cash paying clients, I kind of just do them all just, to have it in one system. But before, when I was not taking insurance, I signed up for, I don't know if you heard of Square.
I know Square.
Yeah.
I used to continue.
No, yeah, that's it. I just signed up for
Yeah,
that, and then that's how I.
I know Square. When I first started private tutoring, I like had like this grandiose dream that I was gonna
Yeah.
take over blocks. Like
Yeah.
I got this block, and I was just like, one day somebody told me they didn't have no, they just had like a debit card, just like before Cash App. I'm like, I gotta get a Square.
Yeah.
I still have one upstairs in my drawer.
Yep.
And you plug it in, you swipe, boom, 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 boom. So yeah, I remember Square.
I love that.
So it's funny, right? Because I always tell people with this being a Just Takes a Village podcast, we tend to focus on the people in our village, the people that helped us and really like put us in the right path,
Hmm.
right? And really got us to where we were going,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be goal wise, career wise.
Yeah.
But it's weird for you because you're a part of a lot of villages, with you being the therapist of the village. Like
Hmm.
people really look towards you for wisdom, guidance, support, an unbiased opinion. But I'm
Yeah.
still gonna ask, like, who were those people in your life that supported you? Who said, Kassandra, like, we got you. You know?
I'm definitely gonna say my family. Like at the top of the list, I think it's my oldest sister.
Okay, shout her out.
Yep. Shout out to you, girl. My oldest sister just has this like man, I don't even know how to like explain it. She's just a big support in making you remember what qualities you have and that you can implement. And then the next is my parents, where although they teetered a lot on that line of like sometimes having unrealistic expectations, I do think that if I shifted my, or if I had learned to do that younger, but now I look back and I'm like, that's technically the push that I needed. Because without that, like constant, you gotta do this. What are you waiting for? Da, da, da. I don't think I would have like done that. Like gone to get my master's and like all of that. Cause yeah, it was tough. The 2 years was tough. It flew by, but it was tough. And they were kind of just like, well, you can't quit. So I don't know what you're gonna do. So I kind of just had to like go through it. But they're really just, and like I said, my mom helping me with like all the paperwork and stuff.
Sisters being the backbone.
And even with my private practice, my mom was the one that like because she's an accountant, she has all these connects, and me making like my LLC, she's the one that took care of all of that. Like she set me up with the right people.
No, mommy needs like a bottle of wine.
She definitely does. She definitely does. She's like my biggest. We clash a lot, but ironically, it's like nah. She did her thing for sure.
You know what I always say with parents too? I feel like parents did so much and they sacrificed a lot of their dreams in order to raise children, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I look at it too, it's like now parental success is measured so differently. Yeah, but like I was telling my mom this the other day on the ride to work. I said, you know when you know you're a good mom? You're not a good mom when your kid is 1 year old, 2 years old. You're a good mom when your child is able to show something that you've taught them in a positive way to the world, right? So I was using this example. That's like you have a little one and the school calls you and they say, well, you know, we're thinking about suspending her. And you go up to her and you're like, what did you do? And she tells you, you know, mom, you were bullying this girl because she was smaller than them and somebody had to stand up for her. It's like, of course I'm tired at you, but it's like, I taught you compassion and now you're showing it. And it's like with parents now, when they see that their kids becoming so successful, that becomes their success. That's like, oh, you know, my son is this and my daughter is this and I have a grandson who does this and it's like, wow, you know, full circle moment because it's like I made this sacrifice so your ass can be successful.
Yeah.
So you know what you're gonna do? You're gonna be successful. You're gonna be successful. So starting from ShopRite to playing Division III soccer and now owning your private practice, what would you say gives you the wholesome feeling in the world throughout this whole journey? What makes Kassandra feel like, okay, like I'm really doing something positive in the world?
It's a great question. Honestly, and you know what's crazy? I actually journaled about this yesterday.
It's very important to journal, people.
It is very important, but don't be fooled. I don't journal all the time. This is where I need to like practice what I preach because sometimes I'm like, oh, journaling because it does it yeah. But and it might sound so freaking cheesy, but I'm gonna tie it back to what you were saying earlier, where you really don't recognize the impacts that you have. And also like growing up, the things that I needed weren't necessarily given to me. And I'm thinking about it now after you said it on this podcast, you know? So I'm just like, wow, that's valid because what I'm doing, I didn't realize like was offering certain things that I like needed
Mhm.
when I was like younger. And so I think just holding space
Holding space.
for people is
That's
just,
beautiful. Holding
yeah.
space.
And it might look different for every therapist, you know, like what makes them feel like, wow, I really love this job. But for me, it's just like for those 45 minutes to an hour, like just come as you are. There's there's nothing that anyone can say that I'm gonna be like,
Yeah.
what the hell? Like,
Yeah.
no, it's just holding
It's
space.
very holding. I'm trying to think if I should title the episode "Holding Space." I was gonna call it the Kassandra Files. I think it'll be holding space. You know, years ago when I first started, first fifth grade class, it was like, how come you always spend your money on this?
You're
I was
funny.
like, I don't got no girlfriend, so y'all gonna get all the benefits now. But it was like,
No.
and it's so strange. After the first class went, sixth grade, they always come back to visit.
Mm.
And I was explaining to my new class, I'm like, listen, one, y'all gotta be tough. But two, if you're ever hungry, I don't care. If you didn't do homework, I don't care if you're upset. If you're ever hungry, you come tell me. You come tell me. All the grades in the world, it's not more important than a starving stomach. If you're hungry, come tell me. I remember one day, we went on a trip. They had like the little lunch for the kids. Yeah. It was like, yo, can't eat this, Mr. Jesse. It's so nasty. Are you hungry? Like, not the yes, the deny. But what you want? Like, you want Chinese food?
Ah.
You're Jewish, right? So they can get like halal or kosher food, even though it's extra $30. Because once you tack that on, like, are you hungry? He's like, yeah, order the food. No sesame chicken, white rice, broccoli. He the only one that ate that food. So I told his father, I said, listen, he didn't really want the school lunch. He's like, man, I wish you would have called. I didn't want you to go hungry. I'm like, nah, he's fed. He looks at me, he goes, like, how? I'm like, I called Uber and I brought him. He looks at me, he goes, you did that for my child? He goes in his wallet. I'm like, yo, he's my kid till June, then you gotta have him back. And that for me was my wholesome moment.
Yeah.
Because not saying I was starving or whatever, but have the option, And it's like, yo, he eats the Chinese food. I'm like, yo, put some duck sauce on that rice. Like, mix the duck sauce with the hot sauce. He's like, you could do that? I'm like, yo, mix it. He mixed it. Dog the food. Dog the food.
Oh.
And when he graduated, I'm like, yo, never forget. He went to Mark Twain. He'll do great things in life. I told him, never forget, when you go to that Chinese food, mix the duck sauce and the hot sauce. And his mom and his dad were laughing, rolling on the floor. And I was like, these are the moments that no matter what else is happening in life, this is what keeps us going. These wholesome moments. I want to thank you. Even though I don't know you from a hole in the wall, I want to thank you for being so wholesome. I want to thank you for your contributions to life in a whole. I don't know if no one's telling you, but I'm going to tell you, you're doing a really, really great job in your profession, especially when you see somebody who looks like you sitting across from you doing great things, you have to clap for them double time.
Yeah.
Because even though our hurdles are the same, you already know that based on gender, your hurdles are 10 times greater than mine. I'm going to be the one to say it. You want to flag me, do whatever. But this is the truth.
Yep.
Your hurdles are 10 times way more different than mine. You're running on a whole different clock that I can't even fathom. So I say this to say, we appreciate you. I appreciate you. The village appreciates you. And it's just like that. Thank you for coming on.